Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of his eye. Let's get to work. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to continue with our meditation on the Shabbat. We've been looking at who is the Messiah, and we're going to be continuing that meditation in the book of Matthew. And specifically, we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 6, starting at verse 1 and going through verse 4. So as we open up, we give thanks to the Father for what he has already shown us. And as always, we begin our meditation and study in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. We're told to study to show ourselves approved unto the Most High, workmen who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And that in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, all scripture is God-breathed and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the person of the Most High may be complete, thoroughly furnished to every good work. We're going to be looking again at Matthew chapter 6 in our meditation, and we're going to be concentrating primarily on the first few verses. So what we're going to do is pull that up. Matthew chapter 6, starting at verse 1. Be careful not to perform your righteous acts before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by men. Truly, I tell you, they already have their full reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. So those are the scriptures that we're going to be focusing on this during this meditation. Before we do so, to be reminded about what we talked about last time in our last meditation, we're going to look very briefly at a commentary that's found in Matthew Henry. I usually don't use commentaries, but in this particular instance, this commentary sort of does give a good review of what we had talked about last time. So I'm going to do that. Before I read it, though, we were talking last time about Matthew chapter 5, and there were several teachings in Matthew chapter 5, beginning with the Beatitudes, going through who the believer is, walking as a citizen of the kingdom, or as one walks as a citizen of the kingdom. What are the expectations from heaven's perspective? These are all things that Yeshua was teaching the people who became his disciples. And so he refers back to the law and the prophets, but he talks very specifically about adultery. He talks about marriage. He talks about how to treat your enemies, those kinds of things. He also talks about what we're going to be discussing today in those first four verses of Matthew chapter 6. So when we look at what you see on the screen, it says, as we must do better than the scribes and Pharisees in avoiding heart sins. And then it talks about what that means, heart adultery and heart murder. So when we were looking last time at the sin of adultery and the sin and how the Most High sees the taking of innocent life, what Yeshua was teaching was not focused primarily on the actions, but primarily on the root of those actions, which was in the heart, which is why we're reading this. So again, it says, as we must do better than the scribes and Pharisees in avoiding heart sins, heart adultery, and heart murder, so likewise in maintaining and keeping up heart religion, doing what we do from an inward, vital principle, that we may be approved of God, not that we may be applauded of men. That is, we must watch against hypocrisy, which was the leaven of the Pharisees, as well as against their doctrine. So I just wanted to read those first few words of that commentary, because that really is going to the heart of what Yeshua was actually doing. So now we'll go back to the verses in Matthew chapter 6. When Yeshua went to the mountain and gave that sermon to people who really wanted to know not only who he is, but who they are supposed to be, who we are supposed to be in relationship to him, he refers everyone to their relationship with the Most High, his Father. And what he is telling and teaching is that all those laws and statutes and commandments were targeting that which was inside of the hearts of the people, because it's from the heart that we do these things. And so we saw last time what that looked like when it came to murder, what that looked like when it came to how you treat your enemies. And now we're talking about it from the standpoint of what is one of the hallmarks of a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. And one of those hallmarks, the frame of heart and mind to give what one has to those who need it. That is part and parcel of the kingdom of heaven. So when he says, be careful, now we're looking at what the verses say. When he says, be careful not to perform your righteous acts. In the King James Version, there's a word there rather than righteous acts. It says alms. And you've probably heard people talking about alms for the poor. Okay. Well, that's translated in the way that the people in the culture that produce these actions is translated into righteous acts. That giving an alms is an act of righteousness. And so if you're a part of the kingdom of heaven, part of how you act is in the giving to others. So what does that look like? What it doesn't look like is that you do that to be seen of other people. That's why he starts out with it that way, because in their society, the quote unquote religious people were good at show. That was true when Yeshua was walking the earth in the flesh before he had been crucified and resurrected. And it's certainly true today. Most of what the quote unquote religious activities are all about is to be seen by other human beings, as opposed to being seen by the Most High. Now, another way of saying that is, from the heart, my intent is to put on a facade of righteousness. So when I give to the poor, and you've seen one of the things about social media that was a byproduct of what those who created social media actually intended, because they created it to be a arm of the state so that everyone could be surveilled, so that everything that you thought, everything that you said, everything that you were saying that you were doing, the state would be able to extrapolate that information and use it against you at their convenient time. So all of that being the case, there are some byproducts of social media that those who have been exploiting it didn't intend. Okay. And one of those byproducts is that people are using social media to tell other people what they're doing. Okay. They're voluntarily giving up this information. So, in essence, why am I saying that? You can have, and I've seen this in a number of situations. You can have a person who sees a homeless person on the street. They're taking a selfie of themselves giving $1 or whatever to that homeless person or that panhandler, whoever it is, that the lowest of our society. You can see them telling all their friends and acquaintances, look what I'm doing. I'm giving to these people. All right. That is being done on social media, but it was also being done when Yeshua was walking the earth. The act of giving alms or doing that which should be done for people anyway, Yeshua was saying, don't do that to be seen by other people. Rather, do it for your Father in heaven. And that's where he says, so when you give to the needy, do not sound a trumpet before you, which is the equivalent of taking a selfie of you giving some money that you don't even need to somebody who actually does need it. Okay. So when you do that, that's like sounding a trumpet, and the trumpet is sounding so other people can see what you're doing. And so Yeshua is telling his disciples, no, that's not what you need to be doing. Okay. Because that's what the hypocrites do. We haven't talked about that word hypocrite in a while, but it has to do with playing a role. A hypocrite in the theater, in the world of the theater, in the world of theatrics, they have these two icons. One is a mask of a person who's smiling, one is a mask of a person who's frowning. Those masks would be placed in front of the face. That process is that process of being a hypocrite. Okay. You are playing a role, but it's not you. All right. So that's what Yeshua is saying about people who take selfies. And I'm not focused on the selfie. I'm using it as our modern day example of what he was talking about, that people have been doing for a long, long time. Okay. And what they've been doing is, look how righteous I am by giving a little bit of nothing to somebody who needs something from me. Now, I'm going to stop for just a second to explain the cultural context for this. In any functioning, thriving, and healthy society, although the scriptures are documenting that same protocol, this is a godly thing. Man is created in God's image, and God is all about giving alms. Now, if we were to look further into that, or performing acts of righteousness, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that a well-functioning society has already figured out how to take care of those who are in need on the regular, so that those who are in need are seen as important parts of the society, and just as important as those who don't have that need. All right. So the fact that you have people and the people who know that meet that need because that's the right thing to do. A righteous act is an act that is the right thing to do. So when you walk by, or when I walk by someone on the street who is clearly in need, the right thing to do is whatever I can to help that person. That's how righteous societies work, because righteous societies are made up of righteous people. But there are other people in society who use those examples or who use those opportunities to let other people in the society know, look how good I am. Okay. And this is what Yeshua is talking about. He's saying, I don't want my people like that. Don't do that. Okay. Because what you're supposed to be, or who you're supposed to be representing, is your Father in heaven. Your Father in heaven is the righteous one. And so now I'll mention that righteous acts are acts that are full of mercy. Mercy is actually not only implied, but it inserted into the definition of an alm. Alm has to do with giving mercy, and that's why, if you remember, in a couple of lessons ago, we talked about in the Beatitudes, the Most High said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." So being merciful is the same thing as saying, blessed are those who give alms the way the Father in heaven wants them to be given. So how is that? It says in verse 2, so when you give to the needy, don't sound a trumpet before you. Don't take the selfie, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets. Who are the hypocrites? The Christians who do those things and then publicize how righteous they are. That's it, gets down to that level. I said Christians, but you could also say the children of Yasharel, because this is about the children of Yasharel and how kingdom folks operate. So don't do that, because your purpose is to be honored by men. And then he goes on to say in verse 2, truly I tell you, they already have their reward. When you do stuff like that, your gratification is instant and over. Okay. So when you take that selfie, or when you sound that trumpet, as it's said here, then that moment in time is the moment that you shine. And after your shine in that moment, it's gone. Okay. And that's what the Most High is saying. When you do it that way, it's very short lived. And that's the only reward you get. Then verse 3, but when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. In other words, be discreet. Okay. There's nothing wrong. And as not only is there nothing wrong, but we should be willing to be merciful to those who need mercy. And please understand, those who need mercy, that's not a theoretical concept. Mercy, as we have been talking about, has to do with giving something that is of value to you to someone else who needs what it is that you have. Okay, that's mercy. And so how do we know that? Because when the scriptures say that the Father is merciful, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about giving something of value. Well, what is of value from heaven? Life itself. So when we ask for the Father to have mercy on us, it's because we need it and we don't have it. And yet he is gracious enough The scriptures say his mercy endures forever. That is the concept, that is the precept that the Most High, through Yeshua, is teaching the children of Yasharel, the children of the Most High, those who are the believers in the Most High. So, verse 3 again, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. And then here's where the blessing is. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. So that's what we wanted to bring today. But as we close on this Shabbat, let's look at what that looks like. So what I'm going to show you is in James chapter 1, verse 26. This is what Yeshua, this is another witness to what Yeshua was saying and continues to say in Matthew chapter 6. Okay. James chapter 1, verse 26. It says, if anyone considers himself religious and yet does not bridle his tongue, he deceives his heart and his religion is worthless. Remember at the beginning of this presentation, we were talking about things that happen from the heart. Murder happens from the heart. Adultery happens from the heart. Religion also happens from the heart. Okay. And so, well, what is religion? That's what this is getting ready to tell us. So in the heart, this is what religion looks like. If anyone considers himself religious and yet does not bridle his tongue, he deceives his heart and his religion is worthless. That's why you have so many people in this day and time speaking about what they think Christianity is. Okay, first of all, it isn't, but that's what they think. So they think that Christianity and religion are the same thing, and religion is seen as a negative. Overwhelmingly, when it comes to the reproduction of life, religion is worthless. All right, because religion is what the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees were all about. They were all about religion. Religion is what the Council of Nicaea produced. It produced a worldwide religion. Okay, and so we're at a point in time now where people are seeing in many cases that religion cannot and has never been the replacement for being a citizen of the kingdom of the Most High. So therefore there are many religions, okay? But here's what he says in verse 27. Pure and undefiled religion, and look at where it happens, before our God and Father is this. So here is what the essence, here is the heart of religion. The heart of religion is to care for orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And that's what Yeshua HaMashiach is teaching us in Matthew chapter 6. So that's where we will end the meditation on this Shabbat. On this Shabbat, these are all matters of the heart, both the positive and the negative. So when we read scripture, when we see the culture that Yeshua is teaching his disciples about the nature of the kingdom of heaven, which he wants to be our nature, he's telling us that giving alms or acts of mercy are part and parcel of those who are citizens of the kingdom. So if you're living in a society that is merciless, that is not the kingdom of the Most High. I don't care what name they call themselves. The kingdom of the Most High is merciful. And that's what he said in Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the merciful, because they will obtain mercy, but by the Father. All right. So that is a good place for us to stop this meditation, but continue in meditation as we, as individuals and our individual families and our small communities of people, meditate on these precepts for this coming week. How should I be merciful? How do I give alms? What are my acts of righteousness that are always going to be focused on those who are in need? So we give thanks for what the Father has shown us. Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom.